going to get you started. And who are you, Pam?
I'm here. Hi, Jack.
Right.
Hi.
How was school?
Right.
Boring is. I'm happy I'm back though.
It was boring?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the host.
Okay, you got the host. You're ready to roll?
Yes. Actually,
okay, so I hit record before I changed over to you.
All right,
Yep,
and
now I'm
April can't hear us for some reason.
Who can't? April?
I fixed it.
You got it?
Yep, I got it. Thank you, though.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Roxanne. Thank you.
You guys next. Okay, good night.
Okay, good night. Okay, so welcome to the September 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Ledyard Farmers Market. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:30. And this is Pam Ball. And let's go around and say who else is here. Lori, you're on mute.
Lori Harry, Assistant Market Manager.
Jamie Allen.
April Brunel, I'm the treasurer.
Harry, committee member.
Melody Ferris, secretary.
Hi, everyone. Ellen Granger, committee member, commissioner.
Linda Davis, liaison from the town council.
Bill Thorne is on vacation. Paula is not able to make it, and we have a guest.
Paul Mogul, a farmer, a
Welcome.
local farmer, among other things.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a lot of things to discuss tonight. I'm just going to go through the meeting like we usually do. Are there any informational items? So I will share one.
Pam, Pam,
Yep.
you skipped citizens' comments.
I skipped citizens' comments? Oh, it's not on my agenda. Okay, do we have any citizen comments?
Sure. Yes.
Go for it, Paul.
All right. A while back at the last town council meeting, I proposed extending an additional $100,000 exemption for farming equipment or equipment used on real farms. However, when I got to the finance committee agenda last night, they were talking about farming exemptions for buildings only. Now, the difference is to a farmer, if you exempt their equipment, or at least you're actually supporting more farmers in Ledyard than if you exempt the buildings. The buildings do not talk about the farmer's home. They talk about your sheds, your barn, your hoop houses, whatever that you have out there. They could be exempt. They may already be exempt in the initial $100,000. So it was discovered last night that if the tax loss was under $30,000, if they expanded this, it would only reach the larger of the farms. The other thing is that expanding the equipment would reach all the farmers in Ledyard. In other words, if you're a legitimate farmer making, let's say, a gross of $15,000, and you already are out there using this exemption, then you could use an additional exemption. Let's say you want to buy a new tractor. How much is a new tractor these days? Could range $40,000, $50,000. You can't exempt that. All right. You can only exempt one of those.
So Paul?
Yes, go ahead.
This is the farmers market meeting?
I know it is, but you're all farmers, right?
No.
Well, it's a major issue here, and for farmers to be successful and survive. If you
I understand that.
You won't have a farmers market without farmers. All right.
Okay, so are you asking us to get involved?
I'm asking you to look into and support exempting farm equipment as well as farm buildings in a manner similar to that of the town of Stonington. if you look up with the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, there are 93 parcels in 490 for farming, which is about, oh, let me see here, 1,200, no, about 2,289 acres in Ledyard are in farms, and PA Public Act 490 is for farms of 25 acres or larger. Okay. In addition to that, we have a lot of small farms here in Ledyard, a lot of small people who need a deduction or need a hand. If we really want to support farming, we shouldn't ask farmers, or we should help farmers. Farmers are already paying their fair share, and they are holding the land open with their own pocketbook. All right, so I will be happy to send anyone on the thing a copy of my note I submitted to both the town council and to the finance committee, just so that you're aware that there is a struggle now to talk about taxes, and it does cost the town of Ledyard. It's a tremendous balancing act for them to say, okay, we're going to exempt an additional $100,000 for equipment, because a lot of people, you know, let's say there's 300 or 400 farmers step up for this. It's going to be a significant amount of impact on taxes in Ledyard. I understand that. I do. But if we don't do something soon with all that's going on today, we're going to have a real problem with farming. And if you push a farmer up against the wall, they're going to sell their property for development. And what is it you want in Ledyard? That's the question. And hopefully you will email me. I'm wide out open over there at pmbm20@comcast.net or paulmogul@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send out my note to you. And that goes for Linda as well. No problem.
Okay.
If I could just add that unfortunately, Paul, your letter came at 4:30 and the meeting was at 5 o'clock. So I did not get a chance to respond at the finance committee meeting because I was at the farmer's market at the time. But the reason only the farm buildings were on the agenda is because when I sent the item to put on the agenda, I sent the Stonington, Montville, and one other town to Roxanne, and she pulled ordinances from other towns, and they only included buildings. My understanding is the impact is not as significant as you might think, and in fact, the finance committee is in favor. But this is very preliminary,
Agreed.
and again, I just don't think this has anything to do with this committee.
Except that we're all, the number of people here are farmers, and this is impacting them.
None of the people on this committee are farmers.
That's amazing.
We
Not
have an
that we'll be
opening.
impacted by this.
You're not. Okay.
No, I'm saying there are many home gardeners here, but I don't think there's anybody on our committee who would be impacted by taxes on farming equipment and buildings.
And I think the reason for that is because we all spend about how many hours a week, and most farmers probably don't have that kind of time to spend on the committee.
I think it's if a farm is making 15,000 more or more in gross revenues, they will have a need for equipment. Now, can that deduction or exemption be within the first $100,000? You see, I'm asking for an additional.
Again, Paul, I'm sorry, and I should not have gotten into dialogue with you, and I apologize to the chair. This has nothing to do with this committee. If they want to discuss it, put it on the agenda and support what you're asking for, which I think is moot because I believe finance is going to support it. But this is about running the farmer's market. This is not about farm equipment, farm buildings, and I apologize for, again, to the chair, because this is not the time for dialogue.
I thought it was public comment. All right.
It is, but about the market rather than the ag regs.
Oh, there's no ag regs right now.
Well, the future ag regs.
Interesting.
We have 17 applicants for that committee. Just thought I'd let you know.
That's great.
That's great.
It would be great to see it staffed. I'm looking forward to it. Whether I'm on it or not doesn't matter, but it does matter to have it up and running. And it's been not up and running for since it was passed, but was it August last year? Was that right, Linda? Something along that lines.
That's correct. We couldn't find anybody that wanted to serve.
Go ahead, April.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming and letting us know this. And just because we aren't farmers doesn't mean we don't care. We do care. That's why we help with the farmers market. But unfortunately, since this committee is only our whole business is getting the market running and the day-to-day running of the market, the sponsors, the vendors, the setup of the locations, we really don't have anything to do with the finance committee or anything like that affects the farmers directly, other than the market. So I appreciate your words and stuff, but I just don't think this committee can do anything about it because it's just the farmers market right now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. Okay. So I will move on to informational items. I just wanted to share with everybody, we got a really nice thank you card from the Foltz family. And it says, "We want to thank you very much for your generous donation collected during the market. Continuously, we are reminded of the love and support throughout this amazing town during the difficult time for us. Thank you, Steve and Brenda Foltz." So they very much appreciated the collection that we took up for Brenda. Okay. So now we move on to approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting? So I have a few corrections. The meeting was probably called to order at 5:30, not 5 o'clock. And the mobility issue, customers can be allowed to walk through the center of the market, not the committee member. And I wasn't sure about the comment about Brenda from Holdridge's wanting to sell flowers. Was that correct?
Yeah, Brenda had come to me, and remember I had talked to you about it, and then I had said I had talked to Audrey about it because she was going to sell fresh cut flowers.
Yep. I just didn't remember it was somebody from Holdridge's. Okay, so that's correct.
I don't even know if Brenda's there anymore because it's so quiet in there. So I think she started her own business, but.
Okay. So those are my proposed corrections. Does anybody else have any proposed corrections? So does anybody want to move to approve the minutes with these corrections? April, you want to make the motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second, sorry, I've been muted.
Okay, everybody approve the minutes with these suggested corrections. Say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Looks
I'm going to abstain
unanimous.
because I wasn't here.
Who abstained?
I abstained because I wasn't at that meeting.
And who's aye?
Jamie.
Jamie. Okay, sorry, I couldn't see.
That's okay.
Okay, so it passes unanimously with, well, I don't know, can it? Jamie's abstaining and Bill is not here. So April, Lori, me, Pete, and that's only 4, right?
Ellen,
No, that's 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so they pass unanimously with 1 abstention.
And Melody.
And Melody, great. Okay. Treasurer report.
Okay, well, the reports were attached to the lovely agenda. I am still learning how to read these reports, and I spoke with Ian briefly last week about generating the report for us before this meeting, and that's my son talking. Forgive him, he's in the background. So it sounds like he's not going to be able to give me like an up-to-date report until like 1 week or 2 weeks into the next month. So we're used to get it at the end of the month, but he takes a little longer. So it's going to be hard for me to look at it and be able to say, yep, we're matching up until a couple weeks into September when I can get a better report from him. but everything looks to be, on point because we haven't, we've been spending for our COVID expenses and other things like that. But we've been getting our vendors and our bag sales and other things like that. And now that we are getting our donations, which we got some last week, seems like we have a good little fund there to work with going forward.
So as long as we aren't in the hole.
Yes, no, we're definitely not in the hole.
Okay. So another thing I'll add to the treasurer's report is I also spoke with Ian, and we can now get reimbursed for sales tax. So we can get reimbursed in full for anything that we spend on the market, because our money does not come from the town. It comes from our vendors and from donations. So that's good news. Okay. I'm not going to do a market manager report because I think it always gets tied in with everything else that's going on. So under old business, the first item is the procedure for making credit card purchases. So this has to be amended anyway, because in that, the existing version, it says that we don't get reimbursed for sales tax. So we have to make up a new one anyway before we approve it. So we can table that one for now. Okay. The other old business is term expiration dates. We talked about this a meeting ago, which was actually 2 months ago. And we probably should start thinking about who is or isn't going to be coming back after May 2021. You're welcome to say something in the meeting. You're welcome to say something to me privately. But considering how hard it's been to staff this committee, the sooner I know, the better. And I know that Melody said that she wouldn't be coming back. So just keep that in mind and let me know as soon as possible, whichever way you decide. Amy?
Yeah, I just think, I understand what you're saying. It's hard to get committee members. I just think asking people 8 months out is a long way. So for example, if you asked me now, I would say no because of the things that are going on in my life with my in-laws, but I don't know if that's going to be like that in 8 months. So I think 8 months is very, very early to try to make a decision. And if somebody makes a decision, they may necessarily want to change their mind, at that point. And because we're volunteers, we actually could say we're going to quit the whole time and then you know what I mean? I mean, it's a long way away, I feel, to make a commitment, yes or no at this point. For me personally,
yes,
everybody feels different.
Right. I'm asking people to think about it, and if you know your decision, to let me know, because we do have one vacancy and we do have one answer. So just think about it so that when you do come to a decision, just let me know. That's really the point. Okay. What else under old business? Is there any other old business that we need to talk about? All right. So let us move on to new business, which is first the assessment of the summer market. So people want to chime in and say how you think things are going for the market. What do we need to do better? We can just go around the table.
Pam, if you're going to
Yep.
if you're going to amend the agenda under new business, you need to do that now. You need to make a motion to amend the agenda, add an item. This is when you would do it.
So the thing that's under new business, things that are not listed. Go ahead.
If you wanted to discuss the winter market, which I understand you wanted to discuss,
Yes.
you would need to
Yes.
amend the agenda now to add winter market under new business.
Okay. So I would like to amend new business to talk about a refund for one of our vendors, to talk about the winter market, and we can do those after we do the first 5 or 6 items. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay. So let's start with summer market, since that's what we're in the middle of. Lori, you want to go first?
Sure.
Wait a minute. Pam made a motion, but it wasn't seconded or voted on.
Oh, okay. We have to motion on it. Okay.
Okay,
Terrible
I'll
at this.
second your motion to amend the agenda.
I second.
Say aye.
All in favor?
I
Aye. April says aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstained? Okay, passes unanimously. My bad, I'm not good at this meeting. Okay,
That's why I'm
let's
here.
move
It's
on.
okay.
I know, thank goodness.
It's a learning curve. We are all learning.
All right, so what are we thinking about summer market?
I
What do
think,
we-
personally, I think for all the extra work and all the extra aggravation and the COVID that has run through our market, just dumping everything, and the new location, I think the market has turned out to be tremendous. I know we've had a couple of days with low turnout, but people seem to be shopping. I know that's the consensus of a lot of our vendors, maybe not all of them. I think our numbers mostly have been very good. I mean, I know we've had the occasional few days of low numbers, and I have to say, I love the new spot that we're in this year. I think it is easier to set up. I think it's cooler, it's breezier, it's larger. It's got the potential to have so many more things for us if we do that there next year. I think that as many cons as we thought we had with this market, I think a lot of them have turned out to be positive.
Awesome. April?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think the amount of effort everybody put in just to overtake all the obstacles that even having it was crazy. I mean, not only the COVID, which is in itself a monster, but the new location on top of that, and then having to deal with the grass being put in, and this being put in, and that being put in, and then the people coming in and telling us we had to move, and then we can't move later, and all the other stuff involved. It was a crazy undertaking and a crazy last minute scramble, and everybody pitched in and everybody did it, and it's wonderful. I love the new spot. I think it's fantastic. I love the parking is right there. People can come and go. I think that's really convenient for people too. And I'm really pleased. And like Lori said, even though, like, say last week we had really, bad weather pretty much, people were spending. People were still coming. People were still happy to come. And a lot of them are repeat customers. And they're genuinely happy. And I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. So the only bad thing I can say is just the stuff that we don't have control over, which is like the COVID and stuff. That's it.
Awesome. Jamie?
Hi. I was just going to say, similar to what the other ladies just said, for our circumstances, I'm very impressed with what the market did this summer. I'm excited to get the market back to normal. I miss the whole sense of community that we have. I miss the kids stuff and the music, and I can't wait until we have more vendors that are, say, because I do like the spot, but moving some of those vendors, onto the tennis court or the former tennis court or up the hill where we have a sense of community or people can picnic, and to get back to that spirit, because that's the thing that was missing for me, is the spirit of what we created for the market. And I know a lot of people are missing that, but they've been very loyal. And not only have they been loyal, poor Bill, who has said the same thing over and over and over again. Just, oh my gosh, this poor guy. But he will say, is this your first time at the market? And it is remarkable to me how many people come for the first time every single market. I just can't believe it. It is amazing to, I mean, one night, there were so many one night that the next week, and I wasn't there that week, somebody else had a clicker just to click the people that said it was the first time they were there. And there was over 100 people that were there for the first time. That's amazing. And that's not happening unless people are talking. And so I think that that is really excellent too. But I really can't wait to get back to the whole thing. And I still think that we have too many volunteers. And that's the last thing. It's just so easy. It's so easy compared to what we had last year that it's just, for the committee, it's easier, but the other market's more exciting. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Pete, I see your hand. You're a newbie. What do you think?
Well, I'm new to the committee, but I'm well versed in the market from last year from my wife being on it. But, I echo what everyone else said, and just great job to everyone. But the two things I want to point out is a lot of vendors had said to me that our market, and I think it was Basra, were the only two around that were even worth participating in, and what a wonderful job that we did with it. And I think that's huge. I heard some negative feedback about other markets, but we won't get involved in that right now. And also, I just wanted to say what a great job all those scouts did every week, and the scout leaders, and just for parking alone and breaking down, they were worth their weight in gold. And it was tremendous, I thought. And the Lions did a great job this past weekend. I look forward to the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee doing equally as well in the next 2 weeks. So that's all. Just great job to everyone. Pam, great job. And everyone else, really good job. Over and out.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I would just say that I think it's been fabulous. I wish I could help more, but I do help by spending money and eating food. So thank you.
Well, I will say that this committee's done a superb job. And Jamie, I get what you mean about, this is a very social market, and people would hang out here every Wednesday for all 3 hours. And the fact that we can't be social is actually, the fact that markets could not be social was a big reason why other markets canceled. And I'm glad that we decided to go on with the market, and that we decided to go on with a walk-through market, because I know the farmers do not like the drive-through market. It's very hard for them. And yes, we were surprised at the number of scouts. We have a lot of volunteers, but we don't have the scouts anymore. So we're kind of down to the team and whoever else will help out. But that was really a nice thing to have the scouts. So I can't thank everybody enough, that's for sure. We have 2 more to go. It's not like we're over yet, but I think it's been very good. It's been a big learning experience this year. I don't think there's anything we really need to improve upon at this point, except for maybe the next item on the agenda, which is improving attendance. And since we have 2 markets left, I'm not sure what we can do, but I'm sure we'll have some good ideas. So Laura, you were first, or Jamie, doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Jamie.
So I was just going to say, and I think we talked about this in the very beginning, our numbers aren't bad, because before we were counting whole families, and because we really don't have the whole family to count anymore, I think our numbers are pretty good. I mean, they weren't great yesterday, but not bad for rain. I mean, literally, how often were we wiping the table, Lori? I mean, it was still drizzling, that spitting out for a long time. So I do think our numbers were pretty good. And I don't know who said it earlier. I think April said people are spending. So you know, and as vendors, you guys have said before, you know, it's not necessarily the quantity, it's are they spending the money? And they seem to be spending the money. So I think we're doing pretty good. I think not this past Wednesday, the Wednesday before, our lines for our food trucks were actually passing the lines to come into the market. I mean, it was amazing. So
It was amazing.
yeah.
Weather plays a huge part in it. That's
I think we're seeing the weather effect more this year than any other year. Really.
Didn't our
So-
numbers go down last year in September when the kids went back to school?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
think they were down around 600.
yeah, and I think that's huge, and especially this year with all the new school stuff, people were stressed about that. So I think you're doing just fine.
I don't think there's a way that we can eat. It's like trying with numbers, it's like apples and oranges between what we have to deal with now and what we dealt with last year. It's two completely different things. And I'm pretty impressed with the numbers that we have, considering we're in the middle of a giant pandemic going on.
Right. No themes. You mean, think about the themes, how many people a theme alone would draw in. We don't even have themes anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm
We
going
had
to check.
220 We had 220 last night, and our high has been about 600. So
Yeah, imagine that 600 market if we were that. I mean, that probably would have been a 1,600 person market because they would have brought their families and everything else. So that would have been amazing.
yeah, you're probably right. That would have probably been one of our biggest markets ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so maybe, you know, I think what we have going on then with raffling off the bags and putting the bags on sale and the derby race. Go ahead, Melody.
I just wanted to make a comment on even our lowest market that we've been having in the past couple of years is, I don't know, 30 times better than it was when it was happening a couple of years ago. I think they had like 50 people that would show up to the market. Like you would never see anybody there. So even on our worst day, we're still doing really well.
Yeah, we're spoiled. We're spoiled. We built a great market. And so whenever we have less than 600 people, you know, we feel like we're not up to par. Okay, so next on the agenda is outdoor seating. I think somebody wanted to, go ahead, Jamie.
Did Pam? Oh, sorry, Jamie.
Go ahead.
Okay, me? No, I didn't know. Well, I mean, we only have 2 markets left at this point, but you know, I didn't know if we could start to encourage people to do it and maybe just yellow tape off every other table in the pavilion or something, or tell people they can picnic. Me personally, I'm missing that atmosphere that we had last year. And I know people can go to restaurants now, so I just didn't know how the committee would feel about it. But with 2 markets left, I don't even know if it matters at this point.
Pam, did you put the sign? Did you put up the signs at the pavilion? Was that you?
Yes.
Okay, so you put those up because I saw them when I went to the chowder booth today, and that's where Fred scared me. By the way, Jamie, he snuck up on me. I saw them today when I was trying to get into the chowder booth, and I wasn't sure if the town had put them there or if you had put them there, because I knew it was discussed, but I wasn't sure the signs came from. There are people there all the time. And on one hand, I don't think it's worth, I don't think we should tell people they can sit there and eat, but there's a lot of people who have read the signs and they know that we're not sanitizing the tables, and the town opened it, and they're far away enough from being in the market that just let it go for the rest, just the 2 more markets. If they want to take that risk, to me, that's fine. The town opened the pavilion. They can go way up there, clean up their mess, and be done. I mean, people have been doing it for weeks now. They even sit on the grass up the hill. So I just don't think we should make a big hubbub about it.
So this is Pam. So our guidelines haven't changed. So we're still not supposed to promote gathering. We're still supposed to tape off all seating areas. So I think it was Bill Thorne mentioned something about signs. And I thought, well, let's put up those signs because I don't think we have the staff and I don't think anybody's going to want to go up there and clean off all those tables and monitor the area. And I think it's fine to let the people do that at their own risk, but I'm just not sure we should be promoting it, which is what Lori said. But it's great to see that people are still coming and eating when the weather is good. Any other comments? Okay. Next on the agenda is vendor survey. So I'm going to work on questions for a vendor survey, and I'm just wondering if there's any particular things we want to ask our vendors for next year or winter. Go ahead, Lori.
I did have a couple of people, and I know you know who one of them is, but I'd be interested to find out what other people think, because I did have one or two other people say it. That they think the market is too long going to 7. I think it's a different, my thing is, it's a different climate this year. Last year, no, to me, nobody cared last year. Everybody was happy to be there till 7. At least it seemed to me. But I was always stuck under a tent doing kid stuff or whatever. So I really wasn't talking to the vendors, and I wasn't the assistant manager. So, but I don't know. Like, would it be worthwhile to put, do you think the market's too long? Because I don't know. I guess I'm just talking my thought in my head.
Go ahead, April.
Well, I think you could definitely ask the question, but I don't see it hurts anything to ask the vendors what they think. But for me personally, I don't think that's wrong to go to 7 because not everybody can get out of work until 5. Some people don't get out of work until 6. Some people got to get their kids and their extracurricular activities and everything else. And by the time they gather all their kids and gather all their people and get to the market, it's probably not till like 6 o'clock. And then they're not going to want to rush around for 20 minutes.
No,
till 6:30.
I think 4 to 7 is nothing personally, but I mean, you're a vendor, I'm not a vendor, but in a normal circumstances, this is not normal circumstances, you know, but I think just personally, I would be interested to see who really thinks that. I think that would be why. I would really be interested to see who thinks it. And if only one yes comes back, I will laugh.
I'll be sure to include that question. Are there any other, I don't know, questions that we need to ask April?
You can ask them whether they care or not about competition. That'd be an interesting one to see. I'm sure it'll be a split response, but maybe not. Maybe they'll all say yes, and maybe they'll all say no. But it's a question.
That's a good one. And I know exactly who you're talking about, Lori.
Miss that. I have children in my house that were talking to me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jamie.
So maybe, and I zoned out for just a second. I'm sorry. Maybe somebody already said this one, but, you know, we always ask them if they're going to return, but asking about, you know, you had a spot under the pavilion. Would you prefer to be, you know, telling them we're going to spread it out next season? God forbid COVID is not here. You know, would you be interested in staying under there again? Because we may want to have to give consideration. Well, if you were under there before, you may get preferential, because remember, a lot of vendors backed out this, you know, and these guys stayed with us. So maybe that would be a question for them too. Because I'm pretty excited for people to start, having another layer up there. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where those trees are. And I feel like Fred told me that 2 of those trees are still coming out, which would give us a little bit more space too.
Okay, that's good to know.
I think, but sometimes I have dreams that he's talking to me and they seem very real. So it's possible he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he did.
Melody, did you have your hand up? You're not on video, so I can't really tell.
I did at one point, but it was pretty much what Jamie said. Like, do they like the location? And is it something they wanted to continue to utilize the barn and whatever? But that's pretty much the same thing Jamie said.
Okay.
Pete,
One thing about changing the time of the market is we have to print all new signs and all new banners. I'm like, oh my gosh, if they
Yeah.
have to pay for them.
I didn't say I wanted to change the time.
No.
Interested to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be interested. I'm not interested in changing the time either. But
Oh,
yeah.
and they are putting in picnic tables too. Over by where we have trucks. They're putting in picnic tables.
Where?
Where we have the food trucks, along the edge of that grass there, it's all going to be reseeded, and they're putting in picnic benches.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That will have, but there won't be grass under them. Apparently there's going to be some impervious surface or something like that so that they don't have to cut grass around them and stuff. And I think they'll be like anchored in or something. Yeah.
Oh, maybe like the ones next to the Morgan barn. They're on the ground. Yep.
Something probably more 2020.
Okay. So what, any more about particular questions I don't want to forget to put on the vendor survey? It'll be the usual, but
Pete,
how about customers? I'm sorry?
I initially was going to say something, and then I kind of thought it through in my head, and I don't. It was not going to be a valid point, so never mind.
Okay. So how about customer surveys? Is there anything specific we want to ask our customers about this year? Go ahead, April.
Well, you can ask them the same questions, like, did they like the new setup? Did they like the new area? And, the typical question of what type of vendors did you want to see that we didn't have, type stuff.
Okay.
Maybe a question specific to food trucks. Did you like the variety? Is 3 enough? Although, of course, as a shopper, you'd probably love to have 10, but that doesn't work. But something specific to food trucks would be kind of fun.
Okay. Anything else that we specifically want from them? They seemed happy. A lot of good feedback about the market and what we were doing. So
I think we should put a survey on the forum. Not necessarily a survey with all those specific questions, but just a general survey, maybe after the last day. Because sometimes I've done that a few times, and sometimes you really, you get your back up with some of the answers, but if you kind of step back, you get some very useful info. And it might be worthwhile doing.
So like an open-ended?
Yeah, like what was your favorite parts of the market? Just very, very basic. Favorite things, what would you like to see different? I would probably word it that way. What would you like to see different?
Okay. Maybe do that both on the forum and on our own Facebook page?
Yeah.
Melody?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Since you're going to be sending it out before the winter market, and I know winter market is something that we're kind of up in the air about, would it be worth asking on that survey if they're interested in a winter market with the conditions that we have now and if the conditions are lifted?
Okay.
Because then you can get an idea if people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to wait in line to go in if you can only have 10 people allowed or whatever it is in the market at a time. So that's going to be a restriction we have. So if you have a lot of people that are saying, I'm not going to wait to go in, it's going to be too much, or it's going to be in an enclosed area and I'm not going to go in to pick it up, then maybe you'd get a better idea if it's really worth having under the current circumstances.
That's a good question. I can tell you that the vendors are begging for winter market. And this is how they make their livelihood. They're all asking, you know, can you do it outside? Can you do it this way? Can you do it with pre-order? Can you do it this? Can you do it that? I mean, they really want winter market. So I don't think we'll have any negatives, any people saying they don't want it from the vendor side, but we should find out from the customer side. Go ahead, Melody.
Yeah, you could even ask them if you could almost give them like an option, like would you do it under the current circumstances if you're only allowed 10 people at a time and you're gonna have to wait? Would you do a pre-order? Is that something that you could do? You know what I mean? You could ask that because pre-order might work better because if you only have 10 people in, they're just going in, picking up their stuff and leaving, then the vendors would still get their sales, but you're gonna get people that are actually gonna pick up their stuff. So that might be a better way to work that situation. I don't know if people are going to wait in line outside in the winter to go in, because unless you limit the amount of time people are allowed to be in there, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a hard, I mean, I don't really know what the amount is, but my understanding is you have to include the vendors in the count of how many people are allowed in a certain space. So, I mean, I don't know the exact things, but that's something we'd have to discuss. I'm just not sure a lot of customers are going to want to wait in line outside unless you have slotted times and all that stuff. It's a lot of things to think about.
Right. So, well, I guess, well, so let's talk about winter market a little bit more under winter market, but yes, there's a lot of things to think about for that. I think we have to talk about, before we hit winter market, EEE. Is that a big concern? Go ahead, Jamie.
Triple E, but the last thing, because when I had mentioned it was just because I know that they're here again, but they're not here. They're not in Ledger at this point, as far as I know, unless there was more information that came through in the last day or two. Linda, do you know if anything came through?
I'm not sure. I have not seen anything, and I usually get that stuff, but I haven't seen anything. And you know, we do only have two markets left.
Right, exactly. So it possibly, it just showed up earlier than I was expecting, I think. But I'll ask Fred to see if he's heard anything else. But when we originally heard it, and then he got the next day more information, it was, yeah, it tested positive. I think only on the animal, and so I'll have to ask him. He's cooking our dinner right now, though, so I don't want to disturb him.
Okay, that's good. So I guess now we're on to new business, if there's no other comments about Triple E. So go ahead.
Boy Scouts is on there.
Go ahead, Melody.
Boy Scouts. There was a discussion about Boy Scouts. I don't know if you wanted to go, that's part of it.
I guess the question is, how much do we want to donate to the Boy Scouts for helping us park this year? Is that your question, Lori?
Because initially we said,
Go ahead.
Initially we said for their volunteering time, we would give Boy Scout Pack Troop 16 a donation for their time. And I don't know who has, I'm looking for ideas because Pete.
I would recommend whatever we raised for them in the buckets, why don't we match it?
Oh.
What did we raise, April?
Looks like she's looking.
Because I was thinking $50 a market.
We raised $284 for them.
Because I was thinking,
$50 a market,
and they did
and they
what,
part,
13?
yeah.
So that's $650.
Melody?
I was just going to say I mean, we can round it up or whatever, but we also gave them the ices that they were getting every day, which was an additional thing. But I would say, how much were you thinking, Lori?
I said $50 a market. We didn't give them the ice cream though for all the markets.
No, not all of it. I'm just saying, but there's a couple markets we were giving from like $40. It was like worth $40 or something every market.
So then why don't you say $500?
Yeah, see, I think I think that's fair.
Just quick question. Did these little guys get like something towards a patch or something? I mean, was this pure volunteer, or were they doing this to get something towards like a community service patch?
Nope. As far as I know, it was them volunteering their time every week.
I would ask that question. I don't have a vote, but I'd want to know the answer to that question before I voted.
Would that change the amount that you would give, Linda?
Pardon me?
Would that change your opinion of the amount to give?
Yeah, if they were volunteering out of the goodness of their hearts and standing out in the heat and hot and dripping sweat, I'd feel different than if they were doing it to earn a patch.
Jamie?
Maybe it's just me, but 500 seems like a lot.
No, 500 seems like I wouldn't want to go higher than 500.
No, I'm saying it seems a lot.
50.
Like we already raised 250 for them. So if you do 250 plus the 500, that's $750. I think that's a lot. My personal opinion, I think that's a lot. We have a lot of other organizations that have donated their times over the years, and we haven't given them cash. And the Lions could certainly use cash. You know, the Rotary could certainly use cash because those are do-gooder groups as well. I just think it's a lot. My personal opinion.
So then why don't we take the 284 and make it 500?
That's great. I could totally live with that.
Don't forget, we didn't have any other do-gooders volunteer to park people all summer. And I know none of us would want to do that job either. So
no, and I agree with that. But I also think if we had a lined parking lot, I don't think we'd need anybody. So for next year, if the parking lot was lined,
right,
I don't think that we'd need anybody. I mean, because really the only problem that people had with parking this year, some of it was due to the Boy Scouts because they're young and they don't know a lot, but sometimes they were first. It took them a good month or so to figure it out. You know, sometimes they were parking people too close. You almost couldn't back up to get out. So I think if we had lines, I don't necessarily know if we'd need parkers again. You know, people to park again. But
well, don't forget the parking lot at Ledger Center was.
That wasn't yes, right, and that wasn't lined either. And when spots aren't lined, people just really struggle. So,
Melody?
I just want to, not that it matters because they were still volunteering and they were awesome and they really were helpful, but they wanted to be there. They found it fun. It was a way to socialize. So it wasn't that we were like dragging them to volunteer. I know a lot of kids that didn't want to go in the previous year, but wanted to be there this year. And so I mean, I think they deserve something, but it really was something that was fun for them too.
Pete?
Very pro Scout, and I got a real kick out of seeing all the kids in their uniforms, and I think that maybe filled just a tiny bit of the void of the community aspect as well. So I'm Pro Scout.
So I will make a motion to match the amount of money that was raised in the donation jar as an extra donation to the Scouts. So that would be $284, which would give them a total of, I don't know, $570-ish.
Yeah, it comes to 568.
I'll second that. That was Jamie, I'm sorry.
That was Jamie. We can still discuss, right? Or no? I think we're done discussing. So all in favor? Lori, Melody, April, Pete, myself, Jamie, Ellen? Hello?
Hi,
Are you voting?
I voted. I said Ellen. Yes,
Oh, okay, I didn't.
I'm
hear
good.
that. So passes unanimously. Great. I forgot to add one other new business. Is it too late to add one other new business?
That's fine.
I wanted to ask the committee about donating to the Lions for parking for us on Wednesday. They're not a political group like the RTC and the DTC, and I asked them on Sunday and they provided 4 people. So I think I would like to make a donation to the Lions if everybody would like to discuss and if we can come up with an amount.
I'm good with donating to it, but Linda, what would you suggest as an amount?
Well, I would suggest 0, but that's just me. I mean, last year we had the Rotary there like 6 times. And that was really tough work because that was a lot of vehicles. So I'm not sure. I think it's a slippery slope to start down the road of donating, giving money to people that help with parking.
Okay, so we didn't donate to the Rotary last year?
We did trade. Everybody got their logos and names on the bag and trade for volunteering. I wanted to donate to the Scouts this year because it's the Scouts. They're always looking for donations and.
Well, yeah, and I get the Scouts, and the big problem with the poor Scouts this year is they couldn't raise money other ways because of COVID.
So we had nothing to offer them in trade this year. No logos, no bags, no anything. And they also lost their fundraising opportunities.
Would simply doing a post and acknowledging them, and then they actually have, you can go to their website or whatever to do a donation. I mean, you could always put the link up if people wanted to donate to them. Or next week, instead of doing a market donation, we could do a Lions donation.
That's a nice idea.
Right. But again, similar to what Linda was just saying, if we start a precedence, we're going to have to do it every time because it's going to be expected. And so I think we need to be careful with that too.
Melody?
I agree with putting a bucket out for them for next week because I was going to say the same exact thing. So then they're going to get something, and there's people are donating for them, which they couldn't raise, but it's not coming from us directly. So I agree with putting a bucket out for them. And thanks for helping us.
Any other comments? Okay, so why don't we?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I do like Jamie's idea about the post though too. That's a really good idea.
Okay. All right, so we can do a bucket for the Lions with the Derby Race market, and then we can do a post on Facebook. Any other comments on that? Okay. Next new agenda item, I had wanted to consider refunding Organic Vine. This was the 11-year-old girl who was supposed to sell corn and onions and peppers. And her mother made it to one market at the very beginning, and she's active duty and wasn't able to come basically to the rest of the season because they weren't supposed to be going anywhere except to the base and to the grocery store. So it's kind of a COVID-related reason for them not being able to come to the market.
I have no
thought would be
problem refunding them at all. If it's COVID, it's COVID. Right, we're just stuck with it.
Yeah. Jamie?
I think we should reimburse her too, not just because of COVID, but because she's a child and she depends on her parents, and it's no fault of her own.
So would we refund in full $85, or would we take off one market and refund $60?
This is April. I'd say just do the whole thing.
Okay. So I will make a motion to, any other comments? I will make a motion to refund Organic Vine $85 because they were unable to make the market due to COVID. Thanks, Pete. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ellen, I'm a yes.
So I think it passes unanimously. No, any abstentions? Any noes? Okay, passes unanimously. So April, I will get to work with you on that to get that back to them. So the last thing to talk about for winter market is, I'll tell you what I have found out so far. I've had some emails to Ledgelight and to the Department of Ag. Winter markets are considered essential, so we are not bound by the 25-person per room rule, but we do have to adhere to all the social distancing guidelines, which would then limit the number of people in the room, but there's no firm and hard number as to the number of people. So, and like I said, the vendors are actually, I mean, they're practically begging for winter market, and a lot of customers have asked about winter market. So I also have a message into St. David's. They have a new minister, and the woman that I worked with at St. David's is no longer there. I haven't heard back from the new contact person as to whether we would even be able to use the venue. And I know that's a lot of things to have up in the air, but there's really not a lot of time between now and November to get things rolling if we have it. I think the first question is if we have the market, and however we have the market, are there people here who would be willing to be in an enclosed space to make the market run, or people who aren't able to do that? Go ahead, April.
Well, I would be available to help run it, and I wouldn't have a problem, because the way I'm looking at it in my head, and this is just me, it's like the little grocery store downtown in Ledyard, where you put your mask on, you go in, you give people some space, you get what you want, you follow the arrows. Well, you're supposed to. I always forget. And then you get your stuff and you get out. So I wouldn't have a problem with helping an indoor market, as long as people are going in, getting their things and getting out, and not sitting there having conversations and la-di-dying and all that other stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be able to be social. That's all.
Lori?
It's a catch-22 because there's so many questions that need to be answered before you can decide to have the market. But we need to decide if we're going to have the market. Like, how are we going to, these people have 6-foot tables. Now, we averaged 15 vendors last winter, I believe, was our average.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the room that Cupcake for Later takes up. Look at the room that who's the tea lady?
Bittersweet.
Thank you. Bittersweet took up. How are we going to even be able to fit more than 6, 8 vendors in there, socially distant, 6 foot apart? I mean, how would we fit the vendors? That's the first question.
I don't think we could fit all the vendors. I think we'd have to, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of questions. Maybe we'd have to use the hallway. Maybe we'd have to use the foyer. Maybe, I mean, yes, there are a lot of questions, but if not enough people from the committee will even go in the building to do this, then it doesn't really matter what the layout or the plan is. Nobody feels comfortable with going in there, then it doesn't matter if there's 6 vendors or 20 vendors. It has to be done no matter what the safe way is.
It's going to be really challenging. I mean, one of the big draws for me and for many of the people that came to the market that, you know, what I would tell about and shout it up was just like having breakfast and sitting back at the tables. And there's just no, I know I wouldn't do that. I would not be comfortable doing that, unfortunately. And I also don't know about a lot of the customers. Many of our customers are on the older side who would come in and grab a cup of coffee and walk around.
Yeah, that would not be available.
And
coffee, no breakfast.
I really regret, but I really feel like knowing where we are right now with too many balls up in the air, I don't know that I can commit to it.
Okay. April?
Yep. I know there's a lot of questions and stuff, but it's easier if we just, like him saying, do it one question at a time, because it's like, first of all, we have to see who's willing to do it if you are willing to do it. And then you would tackle how are we going to run it, because there are ways of doing things. Like, for example, if you want to get more vendors in, you reduce their space to a little table. Maybe they only do pickups. They pre-order and you come pick up, and so now I just have a little pickup table, or somebody else has a little pickup table, so they're not bringing everything with them. I mean, but that's another issue. That's the issue of, okay, so once we know we're having it, how do we run it? Once we know we have the space, how do we make the space work? But I think Pam's right. We have to go question by question. And the first question is, who's willing to do it and who's not? And then you can move forward with the other questions.
Lori. Thank you, April.
No, see, honestly, I couldn't answer yes or no either way yet. I need to know what space we would be in and how it would be run before I could gather my opinion as to whether I would feel safe running it or not. If we have it at St. David's, nope. I don't think so. And I think it's just going to be, plus I think it's going to end up being, if we did have it and we put all this time and work into it, I know we're considered essential, but I don't know. I think it's just, for me, I need to know where and how before I would feel comfortable.
Fair enough. I mean, maybe we're too early to make a decision, but if people feel strongly one way or another, that helps us to move forward. And if the answer is that it's too early to make a decision, then that's the answer. But I think we need to figure out where we're at.
If I had to say right now, if I had to put a vote in right now, I would say no.
Okay. Jamie?
You know how I feel about the winter market, but I will say, I agree with Lori. I don't think St. David's is the right spot. I think it's too, even though it was better than the senior center. So I keep on thinking in my head, like, I know we're not allowed in the school, right? Because if we could do a school, I would think, okay, we have it at the high school. We take that first, you walk in near the cafeteria, you line all of them up 6 feet apart, all the way down the hallway, people can exit out. I think that would be like, oh, okay, we can totally have it here because you could do one-way traffic. So I would agree that I don't think St. David's is the right spot either because it's not big enough. And then how do we want to say, well, we really only can fit, say 6 to 10 vendors in. Now, how are we going to decide who those vendors are? So I think there's still a lot to think about, but I do agree David's probably wouldn't be the right spot particularly for traffic flow or trying to have enough people in there. So maybe if there was a different spot, I don't know, that's something to consider as well.
Okay. Melody, did you ever hand up?
I did, but everybody keeps on saying everything I was going to say, so it's all being done.
I can tell if she's got her hand up.
Linda? Ellen?
No, with the
Well,
now, we're at St. David's.
I haven't even been to the grocery store yet, so you know what my answer is.
Right, you probably wouldn't go. Ellen, comments, thoughts?
Based on where we are right now, if it's at St. David's, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
And I thought St. David's was great last year, but this isn't last year.
No, it's not. No, it's
I like
not.
the idea of using one of the schools with the huge cafeteria. I don't know if we can approach the schools about that. I would be a lot more comfortable in a much bigger space.
April?
This may be totally out of the bonkers too, but if we decide not to have one physical, we could still run it virtual. Not like saying people buy stuff online, but every week, their website, our Facebook page could post what people are having and what they have for sales, and people could contact the farmers or whoever it is. And so we'd be providing them virtually a link, and maybe some people could order things that way, but it's not really a true and bona fide farmers market.
That's an interesting idea. Melody?
I don't know if this would work at all, and we had shot it down last year. But you're saying, vendors are saying, can we have it outside, blah, blah, blah. But last year, the horse barn, I don't know where it's in, somewhere in Gales Ferry, there's a huge horse barn. They offered to allow us to use their horse barn for the farmer's market. I don't know where it is, and we had talked about it last year, and we were saying, no, it's too cold. We don't want to be outside, blah, 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 blah. But if it's something that is an option, I'd have to figure out who it was and who talked to us and all that other stuff. But she did offer it to us, and it's a large barn. It's just outside. It's a enclosed barn, so it's not like super heated, so it'd still be colder. But it might be a solution if it's something that we really, really, really want to do, depending on the space and depending. I don't remember if she said it was something she'd donate or if it's something we'd have to pay for. I mean, I don't like being cold personally, but Jamie loves to be cold, so I think that she would sign up for it. But it's an option depending on who would want it, and we could figure it out. But she was really interested in letting us use her barn, so just one of the options.
I actually like April's idea a lot, and I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking of, okay, you have Canberra's bread, for instance, and if she could get 25 orders, she would drive to Ledyard, and you could pick up the bread from her, or she would drive to Gales Ferry in a spot, and you could pick up the bread for her. Because I certainly would do that to get that jalapeno cheddar during the winter. But it's an interesting idea, April. I'd really have to think about it. I'm sure every other people would too. But I think we could market these people without having an actual space. It might be an interesting idea.
So, sorry, Linda, it's very similar to what Full Heart Farm does. They assume responsibility for logistics and they push those orders out, but they're collecting payment for everybody. And we would have to have all the vendors commit to separate payment because we wouldn't be able to process it that way.
Right.
But it's a great idea. It's nice to have a suggestion out of the box.
Jamie?
Okay, two things. I had my kids talking in the background while April was talking, so if this is exactly what you said, April, I apologize. Similar to the food trucks and how we let the food trucks come to the new spaces in the town, in front of the town hall, could you rotate, say, 2 every Saturday, say Broadbrook and Canberra, and they're doing this Saturday in November, and they'll only be there for say 2 hours because it's outside and it's cold. Similar to a food truck, could we do something like that possibly? That's one idea. And two, my other idea is, seeing as we're not going to make this decision before the last market, it may be a good post to explain to people that we haven't made a decision yet, so they may want to buy in bulk at the end of the market from their favorite vendors. So, for example, I have already ordered 10 loaves of bread from Canberra for the very last market that I plan on freezing because my son eats a lot of them. So if we're unsure, letting people know that so that they could potentially order in bulk at this coming up market, so that they could possibly pick it up on the last market, would be a suggestion.
That's a good idea.
Good idea. Yep, I'll do that.
Does anybody remember the name of this horse farm? I mean, there's not that many in the area. There's Outback. Lori?
I have a question about the horse barn because I don't remember it. I remember the farm wanted us down in Gales Ferry.
Yeah, it's not Sweet. You're not thinking of Sweet Hill when we were going to go in there, are you? No.
Go ahead, Melanie.
She came to one of our markets. She was one of our vendors. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's Sweet Hill.
No. It was
No.
summer market.
No. Now I remember.
It was a summer market.
It was somebody that lives.
Had horses.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know about. I want to think it was somewhere down in the village.
I think so. I think you might be right.
It was.
I had never even heard of her.
Yeah, it was a friend of Laura's.
Oh, I'll ask Laura.
She came to the meeting, and she had all these ideas, and then we never saw her again.
Oh, you're talking about the one that had the farm, though, Linda. Are you talking about the one that wanted to sell vegetables?
The food truck, Becky?
Oh, maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's a different person. She came up to me at the summer market, specifically saying if you're looking for a winter venue, because we had been talking about it. We must have somehow been posting, like trying to find I don't remember, but she did offer it to us. It was like, but she can't, I think she was a vendor at the summer market, but it was towards the end, so possibly in August. I feel like it was like a Stables or something. But it's definitely in Gales Ferry, and I think it's down in the village or whatever.
It's obviously
I can do some research and see if I can figure it out.
And I'll ask Laura.
No, Laura was the other one. Laura was the other one. That we discounted that one.
That was Sweet Hill because they wanted us to pitch in on the oil bill for like thousands of gallons of oil.
Yes.
That one I remember.
It definitely wasn't Sweet Hill. It was a woman I don't even know if I'd remember if I saw her again. And I know who runs Sweet Hill.
Yeah, Charlene.
Yep.
Well, if we can come up with the name of this horse farm place, that's an option because we could certainly be spread out in there. It would be like being outside, but maybe not as cold.
It wasn't Sally Hinkle, was it?
I really don't know. I really don't remember her name. She had given me a card, and I gave it to somebody or went into that thing, and we talked about it, but everybody's like, nah, we're not doing that. So we didn't really talk about it again.
I don't remember this. Who's Sally Hinkle?
The horse place on Long Cove Road. I can't remember the name of it, but that's the only horse farm I can think of in Gales Ferry.
My husband actually had a really brilliant idea if he wanted to share it. If he wants to show his face again too.
Can you see me?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the one about Kyle. So our neighbor is a pastor at a church right by the high school.
Ferry Baptist.
Gales Ferry Baptist.
Gallup Hill Baptist, excuse me.
Something Baptist.
Gallup Hill.
And we donated blood there, and the layout is, first of all, that common, Lori, I have the table. So the room is huge, and the layout's perfect as far as like one entrance, a different exit. It's like it's perfect. But I might have, I mean, as good of an idea as that is, would anyone be favorable to possibly making a semi-permanent enclosure on the where we had the summer market? Like if we invest like $1,000 in tarps and some eye hooks and put a couple of space heaters in there, I think that would be awesome. And we wouldn't have to spend any money on renting a facility. We know it's big enough. And, you know, once that's closed in, that would probably get pretty warm. Just my idea.
That's actually something a vendor proposed to me, was to close in the.
Well, I would say
Jamie,
that's brilliant.
Jamie, you're waving your arms around.
That's because that was the idea I was going to pose. I was trying to consider, is there going to be electricity in there? Because I was saying the same thing. What if we invested in something to close it up? You have one-way traffic. You have, yes, Pete, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Will there be lights?
I'm trying to, let me go ask.
No, Pete, seriously, I had a vendor propose that too. I was looking into renting space heaters for something else that I'm working on. I didn't find them, but I didn't look that hard. But even to close it in would be, make it warmer. It's so breezy down there.
Yeah, I mean, just like rough math, if we got, you know, whatever, like even if we got 50 tarps and, you know, we had to detach them, you know, it would be cheaper than what we spent in renting the church or the donation that we made to the church. But another question is, I don't know if they're going to plan on plowing that during the winter, which could affect the second half of the winter market.
Yeah, that's important to know too. We spent $1,400 to rent St. David's last year. So we could easily accommodate that to, you know, close in. We don't even have to close in the whole barn. We just have to close in some of the barn.
So I talked to Fred and he said so the town applied for a STEEP grant, and putting electricity in that barn is part of the STEEP grant, and they won't know if they got the STEEP grant until October. And then, of course, you know, by the time they sign all the paperwork and everything, so it probably wouldn't have electricity in time for the market. Because I'm just thinking if we kind of board it up or whatever, you'd need lights.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and the oak trees were trimmed up. They're not coming down. I told you sometimes I think things that you didn't say.
Go ahead, Lori.
I will say this, if they decide, I can talk to Kyle, and if they decide, if they have already decided, usually they do youth sports. Their area where they hold services is actually a real basketball court, and I think it's 2 basketball court lengths. The place is huge. It's huge. Like the size of the entire St. David's suits. It's ginormous. I would say we could probably definitely have it safely there.
It's the size of a high school gym. Easy.
At least, yeah.
Melody?
It's the size of 1 basketball court, like a high school court. It's not 2, but it's a nice size. They are still trying to figure out if they're going to do basketball, though. They haven't made a decision on that yet, because I just saw a post on that today. And they do have basketball all Saturday and all Sunday. So that's another thing. If they decide not to do it, then obviously it would be open. But as of right now, they still haven't decided. So it's an option, but they haven't made up the thing. But it would be a nice space. It's a lot of room.
Okay.
Right. So
Jamie,
I'll talk to Kyle and Marcia and see when they're going to decide.
That would be great. That would be absolutely great. So where is this again?
Hill Baptist. It's right at the back of the high school. It's just past the back of the high school going towards Pumpkin Hill on the left.
Okay. Okay.
Just like that little hill right there.
Yep. Okay. Jamie?
And just as a reminder, I know it was a little bit darker, but Our Lady of Lourdes is bigger as well than St. David's. And I gave blood there last month, and they had it split. You know, they have a, you know, like one of those curtain things to split it. And we were only on one side, and I can't, they had, and we were social distancing, of course, and there was so much space in there. So we always could go back to that option as well. And Pam, you might remember, I think they still had a door off to the side, so people could, you know, come in one entrance and probably exit another entrance. So that's always an option as well.
I think you are correct. I'm not sure where that would put them out in terms of parking, but I was actually thinking of Our Lady of Lourdes as well. And the reason we didn't want to use it last year was because it was so big and we didn't want to clean it all. So maybe that's a better option for this year.
Well, I mean, if we're not going to have people eating this time, because I would assume we're not going to have Jen and Natalie.
No.
And if we have one-way traffic, you know, that really takes away the socialization and the kids and stuff like that. And so this may, you know, make it a much easier cleanup, kind of like it is an easier summer cleanup for us as well.
Yeah, no well, we'd have to have the bathrooms open. We'd have to probably do those.
Right.
Because the vendors will need them, but there would not be any kitchen cleanup.
Right.
Lori?
That's one of my other concerns is we have winter coming, and you know that this is all going to start ramping up again. And I mean, first we need to find out if the churches or these spaces are even going to allow anybody to have anything there. But secondly is how well are we going to have to sanitize? How well are we going to have to clean? How, you know, because I mean, it's one thing to wipe a few things down. It's another thing coming from somebody who cleans houses. It's a whole other thing to be having to disinfect and clean doorknobs and everything people touch, and toilets and sinks and the doors on the stalls. And I mean, that's another concern. Like that's especially when we're going to have vendors in and out of there. They leave nice little messes around that we're already cleaning up. I mean,
yeah,
that's what I said. It's so hard to decide whether to do it or not because we.
Right. I mean, it would be a lot more work for us than last year because we'd have to do a lot more cleaning. Unless the church would, you know, for our offering of $100 a week, if that would be enough for them to do the extra cleaning before and after. So it almost sounds like if we had a bigger venue, more people would be amenable. But if there's no lights at the pavilion, I'm not sure we could actually close that in and do anything in there, even during the day. So, go ahead, Lori.
So this is what I propose. I think we should kind of do. I think we should contact a couple of these places, see if they're even going to allow it. I think you should start an email thread where we can list questions about protocols and what's going to happen that we can ask this place if they say yes to get answered, because I think the more questions we have answered, the easier it's going to be for us to decide. And that way, if we start an email thread, we have a good amount of questions that can get answered.
So, so you will talk to the people at Gallup Hill, and Melody, do you think you could find out the name of that horse barn?
I'm looking for it now. I will try.
Okay, and then I can contact Our Lady of Lourdes. So Our Lady of Lourdes is easy to find, but it's a big space and it's a lot to clean. Okay, so if we ask those 3 places.
My first question about the horse barn would be, is it a converted barn?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Is it a converted barn that's sanitary and clean, or is it just an old barn?
I don't know. Melody?
That's my first question.
Does anybody know a Cassidy Kohlheifer?
Cassidy? No.
I think that might be it. Because she was at she's a rider, and she was at one of our markets.
How do you spell her last name?
I'll have to do a little bit more research, but I just was trying to figure it out because I know she was there. It's Kohlhofer. Hofer. Kohlhofer.
OHL. I'm just typing it into Facebook.
She was at our market. I swear to God, I remember taking her name for a ticket.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. She was at one of our markets. That's how I knew her.
No, I mean this year.
Oh, it's possible.
Melody, could you spell that one more time for me?
Kohl.
Yep.
Hofer. I'm not positive that's her, but I just was doing a quick search.
She doesn't show up for me at all when I search her on social media.
Something we can ask Laura because she's. Go ahead.
You said Cassidy?
Yeah.
I have it right here.
Okay.
What's the name of the barn?
Do you see anything, Lori?
No, her settings are all, if it's this, there's a Cassidy Kohlhofer, but if it's her settings are completely private.
Okay. I'll do a little bit more research. Let's not spend too much time on this, and I'll see if I can figure it out for sure.
Okay, that would be great. So I will just keep telling the vendors that we're working on it. I mean, I've got email messages, I got Facebook messages. There's an amazing amount of interest in it. And I'm pretty sure Coventry is planning to have theirs, and I'm going to guess that Stonington's going to have theirs in the Velvet Mill. That's a nice big space, and I know Niantic is thinking about having theirs. So there's not a lot of options for vendors in the winter, that's for sure.
Did anybody like my idea about possibly two vendors or so sitting in front of the town hall where we do the food trucks? I mean, if we, as a last resort, that would at least offer them a way to sell. You know,
went great with the food trucks. There's a lot of interest in it.
And there's 2 sides of the street. You could actually do 4 every Saturday, or I mean, I'm just trying to think of a way to get them. I'm just trying to think of a way to give those vendors a way to sell to our community.
Yeah, if we can't find a place.
Right.
Definitely. I know some vendors already said they wouldn't do an outside market. It's funny, they have so many opinions. I won't do one outside, I won't do one here, I won't do one this, I won't do one that. But, you know, for the people who are willing to
Right.
the element. Yeah.
And you know, but that's the thing that our survey can help us with, you know, that inside outside question.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we would have to do some variation. If we can't get enough spots and you've got some that are willing to do outside, maybe you could say to them, we'll promote you here on this particular Saturday, but we don't have space for you inside the building, or something to try to help them all. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I do feel bad. I don't want them to, it's already a struggle enough with COVID, and I would hate to see a small business lose an opportunity to make money if we could do something to help them.
Well, I like
So
your
are there-
idea, Jamie, with April's idea. So I think those two ideas could come together and we could do something. And I think it would be unique. And I mean, if you couldn't get, I mean, the question would be, and we'll keep using Cambria, but she's a perfect, or Canberra, she's a perfect example. How many loaves of bread would she have to come to make it worthwhile driving down to, for 2 hours to let people pick them up? You know, maybe that number's 25, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 75, but that would be an interesting question.
like a virtual downtown farmers market with maybe 4 vendors a week, 2 on one side and 2 on the other, pick up only if we can't find a venue. That might be, and then alternate the, I don't know. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. We'll have to think more about that.
It would have to all be pre-order. It would be guaranteed.
Yeah,
And then if the person didn't get the amount of orders they needed, then that it wouldn't happen.
Full Heart is continuing to do her consortium through the winter every other week.
Yes.
Wonder if we could do the off weeks. That might be helpful too. So to Jamie and to Linda, are there any empty buildings that we are not aware of that would work for us this winter?
I don't think that large. Yeah,
Okay.
It has to be pretty large.
Okay. Because I know that even Ledyard, I don't know what Ledyard would do, but the food pantry is going to have all kinds of stuff in there for all the Christmas and baskets and all that other stuff. So I was just trying to think of any other empty buildings that we aren't aware of. I thought you guys might know.
The town isn't doing the baskets this year, but we have nowhere to put our food, so it's where it's going to all be.
Right. Not doing baskets this year.
Nope, it's going to be all gift cards.
Ah, okay. All right. So it sounds like for winter, we're going to look into the barn. We're going to look into the bigger church from Lori, and I'll hold off on those 2 before contacting Our Lady of Lourdes. And then maybe we can all put our thinking caps on about the virtual downtown pre-order only, and how would we swing that? Because the vendors, I don't really want to be responsible for collecting payments. That's too much work for us. The vendors would have to collect the payments and then come down and distribute their goods. We could even do that in the ag barn if they're going to be outside. We could just do it at the farmer's market location if it's going to be like that.
That's a really good idea. It's a good parking lot. You could put 10 vendors there.
It could be drive-through.
Yep.
It could be drive-through at our spot with just pickup only.
Pickup only. Prepay, pickup only. Prepay would be good. I mean, I guess you could do pay, but prepay would seem to be better.
Yeah, I can't see Breads and Cookies doing, prepay, but lots of other vendors would. And I know there's a lot of virtual marketing programs out there, but they're expensive for the vendors. They can be $30 a month plus a portion of your sales, and that really adds up. Plus, if people charge it, you lose even more. So that can be a pretty big chunk of what you take in, especially if you don't have a big price point.
Well, maybe, okay, let's say this. How about it's not prepay, but it's pre-order only?
Yeah, I think, some combination of the two. So I can take prepay, and maybe Canberra can take prepay, but I can't see Breads and Cookies doing it, and I can't see,
Well, here's another thing. If you're going to pull this off, people have to market themselves really well on Facebook. So I don't see bread and
Yeah,
cookies doing it at all.
that's true. That's true. Right. I'm assuming every vendor would do it, but maybe not.
The pre-ordering without prepaying makes me nervous at the winter market, not so much in the summer because it's winter and people may order something and not pay for it, and then they're going to not come and not pick it up because they haven't paid for it because, oh, it's a little cold out, or
Yeah.
oh,
Yep.
it's slippery, or oh, it's raining, or, you know, and they don't want to come out. So that's my only, at least right at this point, that I can think of would be concern about the pre-order pickup sort of thing. Is how many people are going to get stiffed.
So when I use, when I pay Canberra for my bread ahead of time, I just use Venmo. That doesn't cost anything, does it? Or pennies. It costs pennies.
So Venmo is not supposed to be used for business
Oh,
unless you set up a business account on Venmo. People that are taking transactions through Venmo that aren't paying any fees and they're acting as a business aren't supposed to be doing it that way.
okay. Because I actually pay the fee when okay, but that's just a personal fee probably, just for using the thing. Because I pay a fee
Yeah.
when I pay her.
So she's reversed the fees to you. Go ahead, April.
Yeah, so Venmo is owned by PayPal. But you can't, well, you're not supposed to use Venmo as a business. So I do not have Venmo, where Bill has Venmo. So if Bill does anything with people giving him money or anything, it's fine. But if for me, I have to go through Square or PayPal or something.
Okay.
So I think we have a game plan. I think we'll hear about the Baptist church. We'll wait to see if we can figure out who the barn person is and contact the barn person. And maybe what we can do once we have the answers to that is maybe have a special meeting, and if we need to in September. If not, we can hash it all out in October, which would really only give us about a month to pull together winter market if we're going to do it. Does that sound like a plan?
Unless we just decide to start it a little later than normal.
Yeah, but they're going to make all their money in November and December and not so much in January and February. And I looked at the holidays and the way the holidays fall. The 26th, the day after Christmas, is a Saturday, and January 1st, I think, is a Saturday. So that's
everything Saturdays with leap year.
So that's 2 in a row that nobody's going to want to go to.
So maybe we should also considering not doing winter market after a certain point in January and just shortening it.
Yep, that's another possibility. So, but let's find out about the spaces, and then we can take it from there. And I think we could pull it together pretty quick if we had to. But I think we need to be prepared to have a special meeting once we find out about the spaces, possibly after the market season ends. So so I guess that's our action items, right? To talk to the venues, and then we go from there. Is there anything else? Anybody want to make a motion to close the meeting? If there's nothing else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Meeting is adjourned at 7:13. I will stop the recording.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.